Rob, what's our second main topic today?
Our second main topic comes to us from Eli S. Hey guys, John, I know you don't like answering top 5 or top 10 or ranking questions on the spot, but I was wondering, if you had a bit of time to think about it, if you could tell us how you'd rank all of the Marvel Disney Plus shows so far, including She-Hulk. I know She-Hulk is still ongoing, but it feels like there have been enough episodes that we get the gist of it. So 1 through 8, how would you rank the shows so far?
All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yeah, like it still feels like yesterday, coming out of D23, not this most recent one, but the last one where they were pumping Disney Plus and they were giving out Disney Plus hats and talking about all these shows that were coming. And then it felt like a forever of a wait for the first things to finally come out. Mandalorian came out and then nothing else came out for a long time. But now we are, with She-Hulk, we are 8 series in. And that's just for the Marvel stuff. We are 8 series in. So yeah, why don't we go through and we'll count She-Hulk in this, because you're right. We've got enough episodes now that we've got an idea. Who knows? Maybe She-Hulk will finish really strong, but we can put that in there right now. Okay, so let's go over to the Campea Classroom on this, and we'll take a look at this. All right, I would say coming in last place right now. So I would say this is what I would think is the worst thing they've got so far. I would say it's probably Hawkeye. Hawkeye to me is the worst thing they've done so far. It had its moments. I mean, everything on this list at the very minimum had its moments, and even had a couple of episodes. I go so far as to say that if they had really crushed the season finale, I might have even been on the pro side of the show, but instead it kind of highlight a lot of stuff I didn't like about the show. So for me, coming in last place is Hawkeye. All right. In my number 7 spot, I am going to go She-Hulk. Listen, I don't have any particular problem with this show. I love the concept. I love the idea. I love their approach. I think Tatiana Maslany is perfectly cast for it. It all just comes down to one thing, and you've heard me say it. It's a comedy that's not funny. And that's at the end of the day, that's all it matters to me. It's got to be funny, and it's just not. I love their approach. I love the philosophy behind the show. I love what they're going for, but you got to be able to make it funny, and for me, they have just not. All right, going on to number 6, I'm going to say is What If. What If was hit and miss. There were a couple of them that were really exceptional. We're all thinking of the same one. We're all thinking of the Doctor Strange one. Whenever you go say What If, and the one that was really great, everybody thinks of the same one.
Come on, man.
Which
Ultron,
one?
Infinity Ultron.
I mean, that was one of the strong ones too. But for every one Doctor Strange and whatever, they also had like the Thor one, the Thor one, and they had. I mean, they just had a number of them that was just kind of hit and miss. And at the end of the day, the show was pretty inconsequential. I know when we first saw the previews for Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, we're like, oh, that's the Doctor Strange from the What If. So this is gonna tie. You didn't have to have seen What If at all. It ended up being completely inconsequential.
Yeah.
So, but again, had a couple episodes I really quite enjoyed. So I'm going to put it at number 6. All right. At number 5 for me, Moon Knight. This was one of the series, and this is a common theme amongst the MCU shows on Disney Plus, that started strong. Loved the first episode, much like I love the first episode of She-Hulk. Loved the first episode of Moon Knight. They certainly did a lot of very, very interesting things. And at the end of the day, I'm okay with this show. Like, I didn't dislike the show like I did Hawkeye, but it's fair to say I was a little bit disappointed. It certainly didn't stick the landing. They had introduced a lot of really interesting concepts and ideas, and I don't really feel like they fleshed them out enough, but there was enough good stuff in there as well. All right, now we're getting into number 4, and these are shows that I generally like, but at number 4, I'm going to go Loki. Loki is one of my absolute favorite characters in the MCU, and I am going to say I was disappointed in this series, but John, you just said you generally like it. Oh, I do, but my expectations for Loki were admittedly pretty high. And I don't feel like the show lived up to its expectations. I thought this was a show that could have been and should have been better. Still, the performances of Tom Hiddleston carrying this thing, a lot of the wacky stuff they did in it, the dynamic between him and Owen Wilson is fantastic. It's one of the best, two character on-screen chemistries they have in the MCU, in my opinion, at any rate. So because of that, even though, overall I was disappointed with the series, it's still not bad and I still enjoyed it. So I'm going to put that at number 4. At number 3, I'm going to go Falcon and Winter Soldier. Again, this is one that started off incredibly strong. They had some incredible thematic stuff in it. Having George St. Pierre in there, good Canadian kid, George St. Pierre, returning as Batroc the Leaper, I thought was great. I even actually love the way the character ended. I thought the Sharon turn was great. I know a lot of people complained about the Sharon turn. I thought it was great because, guess, listen, her story is a classic comic book villain origin story. You know, someone who was a good guy got screwed over again and again, and it turned them. That's the classic comic book turn. And so I really like what they did with that. Again, it didn't quite live up to my expectations because that was my number one most anticipated Marvel show on Disney Plus. So I did not love it, but I liked it. I thought it was all right. I didn't love it, but I liked it. So Falcon the Winter Soldier. Okay, now we're getting into stuff that I absolutely loved. And I'm going to go at number 2, and I went back and forth on number 2 and number 1, but I'm going to put Ms. Marvel in at number 2. This was not just a fantastic Marvel Disney Plus show. This was a fantastic show. The characters, I loved all the characters. It was charming. It was fun. It had a lightheartedness to it that, you know, overall, I'd say the big weakness of the show was that its overarching story was a little bit weak. It was a little bit thin, the overarching story. But from episode to episode, all I cared about every week was just hanging out with this family. That's all I wanted to do. And they made those dynamics so strong that when you get into the final episode and the dad is sitting with her on the roof, I know he knows she's Miss Marvel, and they're sitting on the roof and he's just talking her up. My heart smiled. Like, it was just, I loved this show so much. I thought it was fantastic. So number 2 is Ms. Marvel. And then obviously that only leaves one thing. WandaVision. WandaVision to me is still the gold standard. And it was the first one they did. WandaVision to me is still the gold standard of what Marvel can do potentially on Disney Plus. This was the most interesting show. I'm going to go so far as to say it had the best performances all around. It had a really, like, the mystery week to week, like every week was must-watch television because every single week, people were like 1,000 new theories, some answers, some new questions, like everything along the lines. It just ended up being entertaining and fun, yet serious with a terrific ending. I don't think there was a single episode that I didn't absolutely love from start to finish. I loved this show, and to me, it is still the gold standard. So, highlighting once again, my ranking of the Marvel MCU shows are number 8, Hawkeye, number 7, She-Hulk, number 6, What If, number 5, Moon Knight, number 4, Loki, number 3, Falcon the Winter Soldier, number 2, Ms. Marvel, and number 1, WandaVision. And we're going to say that is John's list. Hey guys, we want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month. And now for the plot twist. I'm just kidding, there isn't one. Seriously, Mint Mobile just has premium wireless service from $15 a month. There's no trapping you into a 2-year contract or opening the bill to find these crazy fees. There's no luring you in with free subscriptions to streaming services that you'll forget to cancel and be charged full price for. I used to dread opening my phone bill every month because every time I was opening it, it was like playing roulette. I never knew what the actual price was going to be, and it always seemed to get higher. But not with Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And if you're worried about the complication of switching things over, don't. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, get premium wireless from just $15 a month and no unexpected plot twists at mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Seriously, you'll make your wallet very happy at mintmobile.com/Campea. So Rob, let's go over to you. How would you look at and rank the MCU show so far?
My list is very similar to yours, but I'm going to start top down. 8 down. Mm-hmm. My most disappointing show was Moon Knight. As you know, the thing that I was most looking forward to was Moon Knight. And I wanted a show about Moon Knight. And I feel that they really leaned heavily into later iterations of Moon Knight, and it really got between the schizophrenia, the mental illness, and then the Egyptian gods. The character of Moon Knight, the character of Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, Mark Spector was sort of lost. And it was a show about all kinds of different things, but it wasn't really about Moon Knight. It wasn't really a focused show. And I thought that was unfortunate. And it wasn't, I didn't just think it was the show. It wasn't the show it not only disappointed me in that it wasn't what I wanted, I just thought it was all over the place and ultimately meaningless. And then when it was over, you're asking yourself a bunch of different questions, and most of them aren't about Moon Knight. So I thought that was problematic. Next is She-Hulk. And I love the first episode of She-Hulk. I love Tatiana Maslany. I like all the elements of the show. I think it's just stupid. I mean, here you have you could have done a wicked satire of comic book characters, comic book movies, what a superhero lawyer could be like. It could be great. I mean, what I would want is David Kelly, the practiced and Boston legal type of writing, that kind of comedy, and I'm not getting that. I'm like, every week it's, let's go fight demons with Wong. Let's go to a wedding. Let's not do what this show's supposed to be doing. And, the overarching narrative that maybe it's the leader wanting her blood. I'm like, you don't even need that. You could explore what does it mean for her to go through her life. Anyway, we'll see where it ends up. Hawkeye, number 6. Again, I liked Hawkeye. I really like Kate Bishop. But again, the storyline with the tracksuit mafia, I get it, came from the Matt Faction run of the comics. But Hawkeye, it seemed like he should have handled that story in an afternoon. And it went on for 6 issues. And there was Kate Bishop's mother and Kate Bishop's mother's boyfriend. And there was all this other stuff. What did this have to do with Hawkeye? I love the relationship he had with Kate Bishop. That I give me that show. Show me him being a mentor to her. Didn't like again. At number 4 and right in the middle.
Number 5.
For number 5 is What If. What If I liked more than you? I thought it was really hit and miss. But the highs, look, like I said, I'm a sucker for things like Infinity Stone Ultron. Yeah, that was 2 episodes. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, I love that. So, and I like the Doctor Strange. It was fun. It was interesting. I enjoyed it more episode to episode than I did Hawkeye or Moon Knight or She-Hulk so far. Then Loki, same with you. I believe that the only difference, I think we're the same. 4 is Loki, 3 is Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think is a lot better than people give it credit for. Looking back on it, the idea of Sam Wilson learning how to accept the mantle of being Captain America, I think is a great story. It works really well. The show is hampered because they had to change it up during production because of the pandemic, but I think it's pretty strong. I went back and rewatched that. I thought it was good. Now, Miss Marvel, number 2, like you, not necessarily my thing, but as a show that was conceived of as being something, I thought it was great. I thought she was great. I loved the supporting characters. I thought the history lesson it gave us about the partition and what went on.
That was great. I love those episodes.
I mean, how they worked it in. It wasn't preachy. It was showing what actually happened that is still affecting the world today. Fascinating. And the fact that people are like, I never heard of this before. I thought it was great. And I thought it was a very respectful look into a Muslim family, which we pointed out is all of our families. And I really, really loved it. Inclusion done right. Love the show. And number 1, obviously, is WandaVision. Because for me, those first 3 episodes were so like, what the hell is this? So zany, off the wall. So many chances were taken in that show. And then that 4th episode where, boom, you're out of the hex. Yeah. And you're meeting Sword. I'm like, what is going on? You see Monica Rambeau come back from the snap. That was the first time you saw anybody come back from the snap.
Oh, and that was the first time.
Yeah, and you see her, and I remember watching the show going, "Oh my god!"
The chaos in the hospital.
Because then we saw it again in Black Widow. But and when she wakes up, and I'm like, I wish I would like to see stories of the snap. Like where were you? You could do a whole show. Where were you when you came back from the snap? That I loved it. And then, it got a little goofy with Agatha Harkness and Supernatural. And
I love the Agatha.
I mean, I did too. It was so out there and weird. It just was satisfying. I'm like, where's this show going? And I felt when it was done, it wasn't entirely successful, but I loved it.
All right. Well, once again, Rob's list is number 8, Moon Knight, number 7, She-Hulk, number 6, Hawkeye, number 5, What If, number 4, Loki, number 3, Falcon the Winter Soldier, number 2, Ms. Marvel, and number 1, WandaVision. So that leaves us just with Christian's list. So, Christian, let's start with you. What is your 8th best or worst thing that Marvel's done on Disney Plus so far?
We have different lists, everybody, but not too far off. It's funny because She-Hulk was actually coming in for me at number 8. And it's bizarre because I think that when I was on right before, it was a few weeks ago that I was on the show, I just watched episode 1, and you guys hadn't had a chance to see it yet, and I was raving about it.
You were raving about it.
Yeah. 1 and 2, I loved it. I said, this is because what you're going to see consistently in my list is theme and tone and consistency of Marvel tone with their type of Marvel humor, right? They've been doing a lot of stuff. There's this major shift in humor over material, and I know that's the goal of She-Hulk, right? But I thought that balance of between 1 and 2 was done very well.
Yes.
Added to the tone they were going for, the theme, and I agree with both of you. I think Tatiana Maslany is phenomenal. I love her. I think the majority, all the performances, they're doing what they're asked to be doing. I think they're doing it. The problem is, I'm not responding to it anymore. A full episode about a trademark, a full episode about a wedding. I'm glad people are loving it. Not for me anymore at the moment. Coming in at number 7 is Hawkeye. Hawkeye was a show that I really wanted to love. I like the trailers and the Christmas tone and that old school kind of late 80s, early 90s action film. And I thought that they got that a lot of the times. But I agree with Rob. I think it could have been handled in a day. I hated what they did to Kingpin. I hated it. It was I couldn't stand it. But I do love her. The positives of it is I like her a lot, Haley, very much so. And then how they set her up, the bringing back in Florence Pugh and those things. There were a lot that was good in the series for sure. There's a lot that I was just not as excited. So I then coming in at number 6 for me is What If. What If is another one that I did think was very consistent in tone, and this is actually for me 6 through the rest I really enjoyed a lot. But What If, I went back and I did rewatch right before Doctor Strange. It was meaningless to do so, but I still did it, and I could find myself rewatching them again. The other two, I don't know if I could find myself rewatching. This, I could definitely rewatch our episodes. There's some that, and the Thor one you're talking about, by the way, that was a precursor to Love and Thunder, my friend. That was. But
you know what actually was the best episode? Nobody brings this one up.
Zombies.
Hank Pym killing the Avengers.
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Actually the
most
most interesting one they did, I thought.
And I love what they did with the Watcher and how they're going to bring that apart. So I actually really enjoyed that series. So that's coming in there. The next one was tough. I was going to switch up these two, but Ms. Marvel comes into the next spot, which again, I love this show, and I agree with you guys absolutely in the fact that it was all about the family. And I had said this many times over that when I saw the trailer, I thought this was going to be a show that I could watch with my 10-year-old. And then just if my 10-year-old wasn't watching, I don't know how much I like the Scott Pilgrim stuff, which they kind of abandoned, that Scott Pilgrim kind of style, but didn't mind it as much. But I could watch this without my daughter. I was so included in that family. I felt so, and I learned more about the culture and things that I wanted to know. And I felt at home, and I never felt like I was on the outside. They always brought me inside to their home. And I agree that the Marvel stuff, even though consistent in tone, just was not the most important thing of the show. And it wasn't the most interesting.
Yeah.
But they did it well, and they tied in the MCO. I loved it, and I introduced her very well into the series. That makes me more interested for the Marvels now because of the way that they set this up. Okay, so then Number four would be Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think that they did a lot of great in this series, and this to me is one of the most consistent in the Marvel tone out of the stuff that we saw. And when I say Marvel, the consistent Marvel tone, I know it's ever evolving, but the stuff that I enjoyed is like the first few phases, right? And like I'm rewatching the MCU right now and watching what they did. This to me had those Winter Soldier feels at times. It had those, and the stuff that they did and the showing and the philosophy. You go back and watch Captain America, the other movies, the idea when Stanley Tucci tells him it's not the soldier, it's the man that makes the serum. And we clearly see that with John in this one and what he's doing when he smashed. And there's some real violence in this show, but there's some stuff that I think, I don't know. It like you said, the mutations and all those things that are happening. It was like, okay, we've seen this a million times over, but for the most part, I really enjoy, and I love their dynamic. So
yeah, their dynamic was really good.
Yeah. So number 3, this is where I'm definitely on way different pages than you guys, and that's Moon Knight. But I understand what you're saying with Moon Knight because I remember you and the big man always talking to me about Moon Knight, and you had these expectations for it. And you said it yourself as you were going through it, it didn't hit your expectations. I had no expectations going into the show.
Right.
Not one. I didn't know anything about the character except I was familiar with the character because of you two, but that I had never really, so I was excited because of the way you guys.
Oscar Isaac was phenomenal.
But the last episode, the season was 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
The season finale was not great. It was just kind of a letdown out of everything that was built up. The fifth episode, however, there's a reason why it's so high on my list, was one of the best episodes for me of Marvel television at all. It was
As he's unpacking the thing,
everything and the way how
that was a
clever
good
it was
episode.
and how they built it and the way that they and I remember going, oh, the kids are running around talking hippo, what do I? And I was like, the way they used the hippo, it worked really well. So I loved that series. I loved the performance. I loved how they dealt with the personalities. I know that I'm in a minority with that series. Like, there's some people, yeah, it's all right. I loved it. So that's why it's so high on my list. Now this switched back and forth with as I was driving over here, it switched over. But for number 2, I'm going to put Loki. You're always going to get me when you do time travel and you do it well and it's not confusing and the way that they incorporated it and how you were able to redeem, because a lot of times my biggest problems with Marvel is like they didn't kill anybody, bringing everybody back, right? But the way they brought Loki back was clever. The way that they made him work and that dynamic that he has with Owen Wilson, the idea, and I think it's going to be even more important once we get more of Kang. And I went back and watched that scene again like a couple days ago, and it's such a great introduction. It's especially because that's not who we're going to be seeing a lot of the times moving forward. But it's like when you go back, people are going to rewatch that scene a million times over in preparation for the new stuff that he's doing. So I thought that everything that they did, the variants and all of it, I loved it. Almost had it at number 1, but just like you guys, to me, number 1 is absolutely WandaVision, and that would be not in a million years be something I would think I hear myself say after seeing the trailers. If I go back, when I saw the trailers, I said, I'm going to hate this show. I said, if they're going to, because I thought, you know, what they're doing for She-Hulk and they're going to that just sitcom every week. I thought that's what they were going to do for WandaVision, like old school 50s television the whole time, never take it serious. I didn't expect that lost element of she's trapped everybody inside there. And there's these, and it, Darcy, who I was never a massive fan of, the Kat Dennings I love, but Darcy was never a fan of, maybe a massive fan of her.
Yeah.
And the way that they used her and the way that how clever it was and this disturbing thing of loss and just the way that they put it together is a brilliantly written television series to set you up and going, that's the gold standard right now. That's the gold standard for Marvel television is WandaVision. So I thought everybody did a great job. And it went back into that consistent tone of this Twilight Zone feel. And then it landed you in that last episode of, no, you're watching a Marvel thing with the battle with Vision and all that. So I loved it. I thought it was a great series.
And I mean, the funny thing is with all of us having WandaVision at number 1, Matt Shackman, of course, he's got a little, what's that little director's gig he's got coming up?
Oh,
What's it called again?
he's doing that Fantastic
Is that what it is?
movie.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's really no wonder that they handed him that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. You saw our list. And by the way, let me just run down Christian's list one more time. He's got a number 8, She-Hulk, number 7, Hawkeye, number 6, What If, number 5, Ms. Marvel, number 4, Falcon the Winter Soldier, number 3, Moon Knight, number 2, Loki, and number 1, WandaVision. But the question is for you, how would you rank the MCU content that we've had on Disney Plus so far? What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? Jump down into the comment section below and leave your list there.